Welcome back to the North America West Semifinal. This is Heat 2 for Team Test number 3. I'm Chase Ingham with Adrian Conway as our top 20 teams from day number 1 are making their way to the competition floor for Team Test number 3. Adrian, this is what we got going on for them. We have the relay format for Test 3, and let them know what we got going on.
So this is going to go female, male, rotating through. The first female and male are going to be responsible for a 400-meter run on that Assault runner, 10 dumbbell bench press at 90 pounds and 60 pounds, 15 single-leg squats on the right, 15 single-leg squats on the left, and then 3 handstand pirouettes. The second grouping, female 2 and male 2, then are responsible for the run, then 15 dumbbell bench press and 10 single-leg squats each leg before they do the pirouettes.
Ladies will kick off Team Test number 3, 400-meter run, as Adrian said earlier, followed by 10 dumbbell bench press at 60 pounds apiece, 15 unbroken single-leg squats on leg 1, 15 on the other, and 3 pirouettes. And Adrian, as we've seen so far, is that you can get everything right, but if you don't have that dialed in, you can be the fastest runner, best one on their single leg, and the best bench presser in the world, but if you don't have that pirouette, it doesn't matter.
Absolutely, and we see already judges' hands up. People are having the opportunity to be a little bit more reckless in this heat, it seems, even with their pacing, like faster times coming off the Assault runner, and hopefully that's only due to the amount of confidence they've already got in their ability to do these bench press in big sets or unbroken. And then similar fashion, if you go fast early, and then you find your way to the pistols and you're wobbly, or you find your way to the pirouettes and you're failing, it does you no good to start too fast. So for most teams, they need to build into this and really be focused on running their own personal race.
Looks like first athletes on the bench press. Looks like lane 20, so the left side of your screen. I believe that's CrossFit Condesa Luther MX. And first female athlete going, I can only imagine how tired her triceps are from all the muscle-ups, the ring muscle-ups she did for her team yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like they haven't done anything yet. They've done a lot of muscle-ups as we watch CrossFit Invictus. We've got CrossFit Franco Misfits, CrossFit Omnia, several of the teams now making their way through these pistols. And the beautiful thing about this, Chase, and I know we talked about it in the last heat, is this is going to be a full-speed race for these athletes that do have these movements in their back pocket, meaning they've reached mastery of them, they're confident in their ability, and that's where the real excitement is going to come down.
And this is not the first time we've seen this basically standard of an unbroken set of pistols on a single leg. We got it from the games last year on the speed medley for the individual. So if you're coming to semifinals, this is something you should have been practicing.
Absolutely. Yeah, you've got to have a really good idea on what we've seen from the test so far. And hopefully these athletes were taking notes all season long, listening to the CrossFit Games podcast, listening to the two of us shoot it about the season, having Boz on, talking about the description of the test and why certain things are present, and that could have given them plenty of cliff notes in regards to where they needed to put their focus.
Looks like your early leaders will be in lane number 9, CrossFit Omnia, as we're past the 3-minute mark, approaching the 3:30 mark.
CrossFit Omnia got there first. Then we had CrossFit Invictus Unconquerable, because of course they got both squads out here on the floor. And now we've also got CrossFit Invictus across the finish line, and their males are running.
CrossFit Invictus being one of those teams that are bringing back all their members from their games team last year that podiumed, with ambitions to come out here and win the whole thing. Obviously, you've got to get there first, but when you talk about teams that could either be in podium contention or even top of the leaderboard contention, because Proven is the big name to beat at the moment just because of the athletes on paper. But Adrian, you know better than anybody else. It's not just having the best 4 individuals. It's about having the best team, complete team, whether it's abilities, communication, the way they work together. Honest, the way you guys suffer together is a big component about that. What is it about the 4 blending together versus good individuals that really distinguish a good team from the best from someone not being on a podium?
Well, it's interesting because I use this kind of description in many different instances, but from a team perspective, you don't want the 4 best individuals. You want the best 4. And it's important to have high capacity. Your athletes have to be well-rounded in a test just like this one here in test 3 that we're getting depicted. You do have to be well-rounded. You can't hide your weaknesses behind other teammates strengths because you're all going to be exposed at some point. But the way these teams come together, like we saw yesterday in test 1 and even in test 2 with all the synchronization that was demanded of them from the worm and the muscle ups and the thrusters, that's really where the most of the breadth of these tests are going to come down to, and of course be the dictator in full success.
Couple more teams with their first female off the board as the men are taking their turn. And it looks like on the left side of your screen is that Omnia and Invictus Unconquerable. Invictus Unconquerable, are they in the white?
And Unconquerable in the white. We've got Omnia in the green top. And then we've also got CrossFit Invictus here in the white tops in lane 11, making fast work of these pistols and certainly closing the gap on the 2 leaders.
First male athletes will do a 400-meter run, same as the female athletes, followed by 10 dumbbell bench press at 90 pounds each, 15 single leg squats on one leg, unbroken, 15 on the other, and 3 handstand pirouettes. Now, Adrian, we hear the word unbroken. We saw what that meant last week. What does unbroken mean here at these semifinals?
So to be very clear about it, the pistol starts at the top and finishes at the top. If you do 1 repetition, you stand tall and get credit for that repetition. As you go down into rep 2 and you touch the floor, as long as you've opened your hip at the top, you will be discredited only for rep 2 and not lose the previous repetition. But every time you've got to show stability at the top before you ever go down into the next rep, and then you can continue the count from there.
Looks like Joshua El Chama has made up a lot of ground for Team Invictus and have put them in the lead ahead of Omnia and Invictus Unconquerable that you see on your screen.
Yep, and I mean, he charged right through the pistols, and I think he closed the gap there and then even pulled away more significantly through those pirouettes.
Now we're kicking off female 2 and male 2. They will do the same 400-meter run. What will be different is that the bench press reps will move from 10 to 15, both at 60 and 90 pounds for the men and the women. 10 single leg squats on each leg unbroken, and the same 3 pirouettes. Adrian, it doesn't look like a big difference as far as reps on paper, but how it feels really particularly towards the dumbbell bench. The 5 reps less on the pistol I don't think is going to be a real of a problem for these athletes, but 5 rep difference from 10 to 15 on the bench press. What is that really going to be for these athletes?
I mean, for these athletes, it's a huge difference because of where a lot of these teams are in regards to their capacity. And I'm not going to speak for even necessarily the top 5 or top 7 teams that are here out on this competition floor, but for those teams that are potentially on the cut line and towing between that 14th position and that 7th position, I think it's a huge difference because of how often the drop-off is from particular skill sets or capacities in the upper body. And even with the pistols, I mean, the 5 reps there seem like, not a big deal. But if you do have a home run hitter in the upper body and they're benching and killing it, those pistols could present a problem for that body type or that specified athlete. So I love the way this is pieced together that way. You know, you each got to carry the brunt of the load somewhere, and the pressure's on the whole time.
The other thing, too, is the standards of which the dumbbell bench are, because a lot of times if we've done dumbbell bench in the gym is that we roll back from that seated position, start from the chest, and press up. The rep is going to start at the top of that press out. You're not getting credit for the chest press to a lockout position, and that adds a little layer of complexity for an athlete that maybe not have the stamina and strength to do these dumbbell bench press.
That's right, and you mentioned that, Chase, and we see CrossFit Invictus, who's the current leader, their female that's currently working on the bench, get a no rep, have to go down, and as she lays back, we're going to see what type of execution she's got, but she's going to lay back, it looks like, with the dumbbells directly on her chest instead of kicking back to straight arms. And, you know, what's important for the spectators to understand is that she will not get credited for that first lockout. It has to start at the top and end at the top, similar to the pistol. And yeah, Chase, I mean, look, this is one of those instances, bro. Hey, if you've been spending time in the gym and you've been banging and slanging some dumbbells, your experience is paying off.
There might be a few people at home being like, finally, when I'm not there.
That's right. And then they're praying that their affiliate will program this test several times in the future and as frequently as possible.
Or a couple athletes like, see, coach, I told you we need to do more of this in the group class.
Give us some more bench press, please. And this is where we've seen the lead change now. Of course, we've got CrossFit Francos Misfits. We've also got CrossFit Invictus Unconquerable. And even in lane 9, we've got CrossFit Omnia. And they have a slight edge on CrossFit Invictus.
It looks like lanes 8, 9, and 10, CrossFit Invictus Unconquerable, as you said, CrossFit Omnia, and CrossFit Franco's Misfits. And
Unconquerable and Franco's Misfits first to the pirouettes.
Side by side, working these pirouettes. Now, athletes can go unbroken if they want to. They don't have to, but they must start behind the yellow and walk past the yellow for it to count. And these two ladies look like they're going to try to do everything they can to get their team into a first place position going to that fourth and final athlete.
Wow. I mean, these men in lane 10 and in lane 8 entered that air runner like they're synchro, and they're not even on the same team.
Right side of your screen in lane 11, that looks like CrossFit Invictus just to the right side of your screen. And Alchama, who was the second male athlete, got them ahead. Yep. And you can see how quickly this tide can turn in this particular test, with the dumbbell bench being an unknown element at this intensity. And I think at this intensity is a big part about this test. Is like, listen, when I'm comfortable, I'm confident. When I'm tired, that's a different story.
Yeah, and there's different levels of fatigue. You know, athletes sometimes do a great job, Chase, settling into a grind for 10 minutes or 8 minutes or beyond. But when you ask it of them to send it or sell part of their soul on a run, and then they have to execute high skills, that's when sometimes that the moment seems a little bigger than perhaps they're ready for. And that's even what we talked about even in the previous heat with Justin, when we had Justin Collar here joining us, was that you only run as fast as you're allowed to run, and your other skills and capacities should dictate how fast that is.
Top teams are on their final male athlete, 400-meter run, 15 dumbbell bench press, 10 unbroken single leg squats on leg 1, followed by leg 2, and then 3 pirouettes. I believe the official clock is approaching that 12-minute mark, which means we'll only have 4 minutes left. So these teams are well ahead of the pace we saw.
Oh my goodness!
For the teams
Chase,
in Heat 1.
We've got CrossFit Franco's Misfits and CrossFit Invictus Unconquerable going rep for rep on the bench press. Neither of these guys look like they have intentions of putting them down. Hands up. Only one more rep here for the Misfits. And right into pistols. Wow. That transition in itself was able to create more separation between their team and Unconquerable, which was going back and forth through the bench press even.
And in the middle part of your screen in the all black for Franco's Misfits, that is Logan Collins. Not someone you want to go head-to-head with when it's a single-leg squat race. Nope. But we'll have to see how these pirouettes form, because Logan Collins, unbroken on the bench press, so far unbroken on the single-leg squats, and he is looking to get to these pirouettes and give Franco's Misfits an event win.
Yeah, he did get hit with one no rep there, didn't stop at all, stayed on the one leg, didn't even pause, and now he's into the pirouettes.
Here comes Logan Collins, center part of your screen in the all black, mid lane, working his way through. 2 pirouettes down, 1 more pirouette to go for Logan Collins and Franco's Misfits, who came in first place after day 1 and should maintain a first place position after test event number 3.
And Chase, in lane 11, CrossFit Invictus has closed the gap and now finished the workout in second place.
Invictus hard charged to try to close the gap on Franco, so it looks like they'll have second place unofficially. Again, nobody finished this test in heat number 1, as this is the second and final heat for team test number 3. But as it stands right now, it looks like Franco's Misfits is getting a slight edge on CrossFit Invictus, as we are halfway through the number of tests we have for these teams to take on. I would have liked to seen how fast Jorge Hernandez closed on that last leg, because it looked like they were well behind.
They were. I'm not kidding you when I say those men probably had at least 35 to 40 seconds on the runner before he touched it. So he was humming on that Assault runner.
Just over or less than 2 minutes remaining before we hit that 16-minute cap. But we still have a few teams, maybe half the field still left on the competition floor.
Yeah, and this is the thing about this test, and we've talked about it, we've mentioned it several times, but the tides can turn so quickly. We watched even teams in Heat 1 come out, and their very first athlete was going smoothly, and all of a sudden they ran into trouble with the pirouettes and never got through. So for you to go from feeling great on that assault runner to running into trouble with either the bench press or the pistols or the pirouettes, it speaks to the unique design of this test, and I love it. It's made for an extremely exciting atmosphere here for us this morning.
Now, I know it's a second place finish unofficially for Invictus, currently second overall. There was a little bit of a stumble on the pirouettes for their second female athlete. Second place, should be happy about it. Do you have to manage maybe some of that panic mode that can settle in for individuals on the team? Do you see that happening in a team setting?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it, man. We see it firsthand here as we notice even the athlete that struggled with it a little bit, Devin. She was emotional after finishing, and even after watching Jorge close that gap from probably the deficit that she believed in herself could have created for her team, she just felt like she perhaps let them down, and there's a balance there. And I could see her teammates assuring her, hey, we got you. We were able to cover that deficit. You know, we made do with what we had. So I think it's about them supporting her. And it happens all the time for each and every team in different ways where, you know, at some point throughout the series of tests here in this event, like they're going to feel like they let their teammates down to some way, and it's up to the rest of the team to pick them up.
And that will do it for team test number 3.